I am Marwan Cameron, and this is The Conduit. All right, y'all, it is 3 p.m. on Monday, October 18. Happy Monday to you all. I hope you are having a fantastic day. I know that I am. I love Mondays. Mondays are my favorite day. Definitely blessed and highly favored. Got my sidekick Sabrina with me today, helping out in the studio, so we're excited for that. You know what we do on Mondays. It is Bremerton Housing Authority and KCR. So we're going to talk to them in just a few moments. Want to remind everyone, it is election season. The election is November 2nd. Be sure to get out and vote. Tonight at 5 p.m., we have the opponent of Mayor Bill Broughton. So he will be on at 5 p.m. So if you have questions for the mayor's opponent, please join us, submit your questions. And this is important, right? We don't pay attention to a lot of down ballot elections, but this is where a lot happens. This is where it impacts us most directly. So I encourage you to learn about the issues, learn about the people that are running, ask those questions, figure out what they're about. Do they serve your interest? And then use your power and vote. But anyway, let's not delay anymore. Let's go ahead and bring Jill on in.
Hey, I'm doing good. Can you hear me okay?
I absolutely can. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was good. Busy.
Anything fun?
Well, the game was fun until they lost in overtime.
Yeah, I guess that was a big heartbreaker, right?
Oh yeah. Especially if you invest all that time watching it.
Oh man, well, I am a Buffalo Bills fan. I was born in Buffalo, New York. So if you're a football fan, you know my pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're looking pretty good this year, but it's like, all right, I'm not falling for it again. I get on the bandwagon, and then at the last minute, well, we had Tom Brady in our division, so we had no prayer for as long as he was there. And it's like, is the guy ever going to retire? Then he goes to Tampa, and we still lose. It's like,
I know, not fair, not fair.
So it's tough being a Bills fan. It really is.
Yeah. Hope you're breaking up.
Am I breaking up?
Now you're better.
Oh, okay. I know we've got a little bit of noise kind of on the line, so I don't know where that's coming from. But, we want to check in every Monday, and it seems like this is kind of a light week. So I think it's good to kind of always touch base, see if there's any news. One of the big first ones I'm going to ask you right off the bat, have you heard anything about extension of the moratorium bridge into the next month?
No, not a word. And I'm kind of not expecting it at this point. So that's just based on a guess. But yeah, we haven't heard a word about that. We do have some good news here though. We got our first emergency housing voucher holder leased up.
What?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, talk about that.
So, this is the group of 38 that we're getting referrals in from different organizations. We've had, let's see, gosh, I want to say 28 referrals in now. So we're getting the referrals in, rather quickly. And the partners that are bringing the referrals are also really trying to help find the housing. But the barriers continue to be not so much security deposit, because we'll pay for that. It's just getting a landlord to rent to people that have poor rental history or poor credit history. Wow. So it's really been a challenge. But as we've always said with this program, is that it's going to take people in the private sector really willing to work with these people and taking, really. We'll provide extra security deposit, but even with that kind of things, people still need to be able to willing to take a risk on people that have had some hard times. And it's just hard to find that, to find landlords willing to do that. Certainly the ones in big apartment complexes owned by corporations, they don't care.
They're
So
looking at a number, right? They're just filling out
exactly.
a digital form, and it's like, yep, nope, sorry.
That's exactly right. But this was a landlord in Kingston, in the Kingston area, and she understood what we were trying to do, and she said, "Okay, I want one of those voucher holders in my unit." And it was, yeah, it's pretty impressive, like that what the she did. And then she said she knew that the other issue is passing a housing quality standards inspection, and her unit didn't pass the first time, so she had to get some repairs done to it. And she called someone in to do the repairs, and then called us back. We went back, the repairs were still not done, so we still couldn't do it. So this has been going on for like 3 weeks to a month. And
Wow.
then, but she just stuck in there with us, and she wasn't happy to see that the repairs weren't done, so she got the boss of that company in there to do it. And then we went out and inspected for the third time, and everything was good except for one little thing, which we said, just fix it and send us a picture. And so that's what happened. And yeah, they're moving in. So it's super exciting.
That's a huge deal. And, there's not a lot of units, as you said, before, affordable units. And then you have to find landlords that are willing to, take the chance and listen to the story. And so money isn't necessarily the motivator that's going to push it over the hump, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, but I've always said, let's get that first one. Let's just get that first one in, and that's like a hurdle. And then I think, we'll just keep chipping away.
So what I love about organic conversation, it can kind of bring the topic itself. So I kind of think the topic should be is, let's address the landlords, potential landlords today, and just kind of appeal to them and talk about, why they should take a risk on these particular tenants and how to mitigate those risks, and how, if you're putting a voucher holder in your home, that you're really alongside Bremerton Housing Authority with support, so that that tenant isn't alone. Can you speak to that? Because I think that might be really powerful towards to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's actually that's a great topic because it's what's been really on our mind. And you just, when you work with the Bremerton Housing Authority or Housing Kids App, because we administer all of their vouchers, you really are a partner with us and with your renter. So the positive part is we're going to calculate what the portion of rent should be from the renter, and then what the portion will be from the housing authority. Quite often, it's most from the housing authority. So you are guaranteed to get your money every month. And if the tenant doesn't pay their portion, we're right there alongside of them, figuring out what's going on. Do we need to change their income so that the housing authority pays more? Do we need some temporary rental assistance to get them through? But we are very committed to our landlords and very committed to making sure that they get their monthly rental payment.
So Joe, let me ask, if I'm a landlord and I know that I'm getting what 80-90% of the payment from the housing authority, right? How long do I wait to receive my monthly check?
We do direct deposit, so it gets paid on the first of the month.
Okay, so I'm every first of the month, I don't have to worry. I know I'm going to get that 80% or 90% of that rent up front, no matter what's going on with the tenant, that's coming in. So to me, that would make me feel a lot more assured, right? If I'm paying, if I'm charging $1,500 a month, and the tenant's portion is, well, let's say 20%, it's $300. I know 1,200 is coming into my account on the first, no matter what. I'm not worried about, oh, I don't have the money today. You're going to have to pay a late fee because it's after the 5th or it's after the 10th. I'm getting that 80% right off the top. And so let's say the tenant did have some issues with paying, and Bremerton Housing Authority found out, well, there was some bill strain or something like that. How long would it take maybe to get that other 20%? Or does Bremerton Housing Authority help with that? Or does that kick in for the next month?
So it kind of depends on what the cause is. If the cause has to do with an income change, then we will recalculate the tenant's portion. And let's say that they lost their job and their income went to zero. We'll recalculate that, and then we will just start paying 100%. If if it was related to COVID expenses going up, that's where we would try to get rental assistance dollars in, because then there hasn't been a change in income, but there has been a change in the financial picture. And so, and Matt has briefed this group on how that works. So it's up to 12 months, it can go retroactive and forward. So that's how we would work with an increase in expenses.
Gotcha. Okay. So continue. I'm sorry I cut you off there, but I just wanted to, those things kind of pop in my mind. I'm trying to get in the space of a landlord as you speak.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that the other thing to keep in mind is, one, this is a community problem, right? It's not just the housing authority's problem or the city or the county. I mean, this is kind of all of our problem. And to the extent that we can get, especially right now, these 38 voucher holders into units, we're really dealing with people who are homeless. And so, we all want to address homelessness, and this is one of the ways that landlords can really step up and do that. And I think the other cool thing about this, working with the housing authority, especially on these 38, but really in general with all of our voucher holders, is we want them to be successful. So if you're having an issue, you're not just stuck dealing with the renter. You have us. You can pull us in, and we're going to try to give that immediate support to figure out what's happening with that family, because we don't want that family to not be successful and to lose their housing. Kitsap County has Kitsap County Resources and various other partners who really take an active role in this as well. If I felt like that somebody was struggling with some mental illness challenges, I could just call Kitsap Mental Health Services, and we can see about getting some case management. So you really have a team behind the housing, and the landlord is a team member providing that housing.
All right, I like that. And so, that tenant has that support, right? So they can, like you said, they lost their job or they got a reduction in hours. Let's say they did lose their job. It sounds like Bremerton Housing Authority has some resources or referrals, maybe to KCR, to help them become re-employed or more employed, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of support those things up front, right? And I think about how, so many of us are kind of just out here, right? We're doing our things, every day. We're paying our bills, we're working and whatnot. And sometimes if we have a life event happen, we don't necessarily have those resources that they're ready. And so an advantage of a tenant using one of these vouchers is Bremerton Housing Authority is right there side by side. So as soon as they have a challenge, there's a really great organization right there to step in and support that and try to get them back up and keep going and be successful.
Yeah, that's right. And the other thing about the housing authority being a partner is we're checking on your unit. So we're required to do a check. I know there were some waivers during COVID, so we weren't doing annual checks, but we'll probably get back to doing annual inspections. And we're always willing to come out and do an inspection if either the landlord or the resident requests it for some reason. If they think that there might be something going on, we can figure out how to do an inspection.
Oh, really? So let's say, you're doing a standard annual inspection, and me as the landlord are like, I would just feel more comfortable if maybe you went in every 3 months or just check on it. I could drive by the property, but it'd just be nice to know if things are okay on the inside. You could make that happen?
So we can't do that exactly, because
Okay.
we have to be sure that we're honoring fair housing rules and that we're also honoring the rights of the resident. But landlords, I'm not an expert in landlord law, but I do believe that landlords in their lease, it depends how you write up their lease. Most of them write it up where they can go into a unit if they give 24 hours notice or 48 hours notice. Say, so if they're suspecting that there's an issue, I think that's on them to do. If they were going to do them regularly like that, we probably wouldn't advise that. Just again, being respectful of the renter and the privacy, and this is their home once they've rented it. But that being said, there has been times when the landlord has said, hey, something is amiss here and I don't know what, but I need someone, and we can figure out a way to make that happen.
All right, yeah, I do like that. And like I said, I think that that's really important. What can you share, maybe that you've heard, other concerns that landlords have had with, using vouchers or Section 8 and just some of the challenges? I know that some of those might be that the people tear up their units, right? And it costs them tens of thousands of dollars to get it turned over to rent to someone else. Can you kind of speak to that? Because while that does happen, that also happens with non-voucher users, right? So that kind of gets a bad rap for people that are on Section 8 or using vouchers.
Yeah, and it really is too bad, that this is out there, and it's we don't. I mean, I've only been at Bremerton for since January. I haven't heard of one incident of something like that happening, and it's a lot more rare than you would think. I'm not going to say it never happens because certainly it does. I've been at three housing authorities now, and it happened at each one of them, but it is really the exception, and I would go as far as to say that our voucher holders don't typically they don't want to lose their vouchers. I mean, this is something that they have waited many years sometimes to have, and it's something that they have tried multiple times to get. So they're pretty conscious of this. Now, that being said, yes, there are barriers, there are challenges. Just life is hard, right? And so there are things that I think are valid concerns of a landlord, whether they're going to keep up the yard and the appearance of the house and things like that. But you really just need to get these things agreed to in the lease, and just keep an eye on it. But overall, they're going to get an inspection. They know that's coming, and they also are very grateful to have the voucher, so they're not looking to lose it usually.
And I think it's important, for people to know. I got a phone call from a friend, yesterday about a friend of hers that needed help, and I think she believed that she had a voucher. And from the way that it sounds, it's like if you have a Section 8 voucher, you got a Section 8 voucher.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you are waiting years, and you've got this lotto system, and it opens up, and it's open for a certain amount of time. So as you said, I mean, it literally does feel like winning the lottery. So folks hold on to those vouchers. That is gold. And so when they get into a space, they don't want to lose that voucher typically. So that's one thing that I think people don't understand is they may think vouchers are just kind of flying around and you could just get a hold of them just as easy as you want. And it's like, no, that's not the case. Folks have literally waited years for the voucher, and it's tough, right? Um, so that can make it difficult. But in this scenario, and maybe you can answer this question for me, the person indicated that they felt like they had a Section 8 voucher, but they took a new job and it had a pay raise, maybe $2 or $3 an hour. And that somehow made her ineligible for a Section 8 voucher. That really didn't sound right to me, because I thought that, a family could make like up to like 79,000 without losing their voucher or something like that. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, and I won't be the best one to speak to this, but I can speak to it a little bit. Yeah. So if to me that doesn't sound right either, because the people on our program can make up to 40% of the area median income. I don't exactly know what that number is, but it's high enough where a $2 or $3 an hour, unless they were already making higher wages, probably isn't going to put them in that category. But that is another misconception that people have. And so it's if you have a voucher and you have an increase and you haven't found housing yet, it's just check in with your housing specialist and go over your income and make sure that that voucher is still qualified. Some people who have vouchers and they're housed and they get jobs that do put them over that limit, they could have they need to report that, and they do lose their voucher. But we give people in that position 6 months to where we'll still hold their voucher for them. They won't be getting any financial benefit, but we're going to hold it for them just in case things don't work out with the new job.
Oh, okay. So if it doesn't work out, right now it's like, hey, you got 6 months and you're gonna lose your voucher. But if something happens within that 6 months and the job doesn't work out, then you'll keep your voucher.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, so that's super important to know, right? So I actually did a podcast the other day, Jill, and it talked about how, you know, when you think about the benefits that a family can receive through housing and TANF and SNAP benefits and medical and childcare expenses, when you add all that up together, it could be up to about $70,000 in benefit when and housing prices are so high. And so while we kind of have this fight going on, right? It's like we want folks to be self-sufficient and we want to help people out, but then as we push them toward employment, unless they're really making above that 70, it's like, okay, so I'm working 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, and maybe I'm making 69 or I'm making 73, and it's like, but I'm killing myself, and I'm not really getting ahead. This job is still a job and not a career, and when it ends in 3 or 4 years, I might be stuck. So going to work really is kind of a huge gamble, you know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and so now we're going to start talking philosophical stuff, which is always fun, right?
Go ahead.
You're absolutely right. It's like, you know, that is another huge problem. Wages have to go up, and they have to go up significantly because, yeah, I mean, and even though the amount of benefits, as you've added up, could come up to 70,000, that sounds like a big number. But in reality, with the housing costs and food costs and everything, it's just getting by. And so, yeah, to have a minimum wage job or even higher than minimum wage job is it's really risky for these people receiving this help. So yeah, there has to be an answer to that too, and I do believe either there needs to be some sort of control on rents, or there needs to be a significant increase in wages.
And that's tough. And are either one of those coming anytime soon? Whew, don't hold your breath on that.
No, and but I think maybe those are almost more difficult to handle than the housing piece. And maybe the housing piece is the piece that we can concentrate on because, it's like a hard, we just need to develop housing and put people in it. And maybe these other kind of longer term issues will start to resolve themselves once people are actually stabilized and in homes.
So let me ask you a question while we're still in a philosophical space here. This is a huge issue that is our own pandemic that long before COVID. What would be the way to solve it if we had a magic wand and could do something about it? Is it kind of down ballot, politics where folks are pushing up onto uh, the HUD and other federal lawmakers? Does it need to come down from the top down in the form of lobbyists? Is it kind of all of the above? Like what are some ways to try to tackle this?
Yeah, I really do think it's all of the above, but I think that if we're waiting for our legislators to drop upon us a gift of universal vouchers, I think we'll be waiting for a very long time. Um, I think that political pressure is always the way to go. And I think that, this pandemic has certainly highlighted some of the serious equity issues in this country with people of color and people who are poor. And so it's not comfortable for our politicians to see these problems, and it's not comfortable for them to hear from the advocates constantly pushing. I realize that universal vouchers, that is a huge deal because right now I think it's it's either 4 or 5 families that need rental assistance ever get it in their lifetime. So
Wow.
yeah. So that's we're helping with basically a quarter of the problem, maybe 20% to a quarter of the problem.
Jill,
And
can you say that stat again? People don't know that.
it's like I'm going to go with 1 in 4. It could be 5, but I think it's 1 in 4 families that need rental assistance ever actually receive it in their lifetime. Um, and that could be, so that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all homeless, but they could be significantly rent burdened. So if you think about that and you think about what having a voucher might do for a family that's in a home, but they're spending, 60, 70, 80% of their dollars on that home. Well, what are they not having? They're certainly not eating well. Their kids are not going to camps or sports or any of those things or college. I mean, they have some significant challenges that cause generational harm. And so, while there is an abundance of problems that we need to solve, social problems, when you really think about housing, that's one very almost immediate way that you can have a long-term impact in a variety of ways on families and individuals. And so while it does have a significant cost, I think you also have to look at the cost that you're going to be reducing when you house people and when you give them stability and when they're able to maybe do something to create more financial stability for their family in the future and not so reliant on benefits. Because other benefits you just get if you need them, like TANF, things like that. Well, they're always going to need them until if they're spending all this money on rent. So, there is some ways that I think we can save ourselves and actually maybe turn around this cycle of poverty. That's my philosophy, anyways.
No, I appreciate that, and that's so important. And it's good to know, the philosophy of leadership, right? You are the executive director of the Bremerton Housing Authority, and I think oftentimes, people wonder, what do powerful people think? What do they believe? We can get a cynical viewpoint on our leaders because we don't see the change quickly enough, and we want things to be a certain way. And it's like, well, we could be hamstrung by policy and procedure and federal guidelines and HUD guidelines and this and that, and they don't know how much you fight through all the muck and the dirt to try to produce all the things that you are able to produce. And so I hope that this is a good experience for folks to have that transparency and learn a little bit about how the process works and how tremendously difficult it is. And for the millions of people that make up that 20 to 25%, there are millions more that, never get the service that they need over the course of the lifetime that they may have needed those benefits. And that's so tragic.
It really is tragic, and I don't think necessary either. It's unnecessary. Like, we're not doing things the smart way, like we should be. And I think we've talked about this before too. But just the fact that Bremerton Housing Authority has like 1,892 vouchers, and they've only utilized between 1,315 for the last 10 years, and that federal money that equates to about $5 million annually that has not been coming into our county. And I would be saying this about any county I lived in, but if the problem was there, that it is not just well, one, there's all these families that should have been housed all this time. There's federal dollars that should have been coming into our community that would have, I believe, paid back in time because we've stabilized people. And so, it's just to have the federal government not provide enough funding to fully utilize our vouchers is a huge problem. And I do think that will could possibly get addressed if the Build Back America Act gets passed with housing provisions in there. I think that'll be one of the things that they're looking at. And of course, we'll still have the issue of the shortage of housing, but really, we are finding some units. It's just that we're not finding units that will rent to voucher holders.
Right. Such a huge challenge. And then when you think about folks that aren't voucher holders that are also looking for units and the challenges that they go through, because they face a lot of the same things, right? Bad credit, bad credit history, lack of job history, just there's so many different things. There's so many factors now that go into looking at it. And you have folks coming from Seattle and Tacoma, and they're saying, hey, there's some affordable housing over here, and I look pretty good on paper, and I'll take the 30-minute commute, or I'll take the hour commute and take a nap or do some work or study or do whatever. It's like, yeah, so now you're competing against that also. So we're in a very unique geographic location where we're really squeezed on all sides, and so it makes it even more challenging to find a space. And I would say to that, it's you gotta prepare now. Winter is coming. Winter is already here, but winter may be here to stay for a while. And even if we thaw out, the season is coming back. So you really got to get yourself looking as strong as possible on paper. And it's not too late to start working on it. And how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You just start chipping away at it a little by little. And don't let yourself get overwhelmed. You may have a lot to fix, but as you start working on it, one day you'll look up and you'll say, "Hey, my credit score went from 450 to 620," and it's like, "Oh, man, that's awesome!" And I've been
Yeah.
on the job for 2 years, and I've done this and I've done that, and you'll begin to look a lot stronger on paper, right? And so that's really the way to look at it. Stay hopeful, stay encouraged, stay connected. Get to know the leaders in your community. Get to working with these agencies. Stay informed. Talk to people. Learn and listen to these tips. Please share these things out with others that don't know about it. A lot of times I think we make assumptions that people know what the experience is and what they have to go through. But even if you've gone through it, but you've been in the same space for 5 years, oh, it's changed. It's not the same when you moved into your place 5 years ago. So now all of a sudden it's changed, and it's like, oh, well, it's more expensive. They want first, last, and deposit. Oh, do you have pets? Do you have this? You're paying for parking now. You're paying for that. And it's like, man, where did all this stuff come from? And you're putting in applicants, and housing units are gone in a blink of an eye. And you might have put your 40 in and they went with someone else, and now you got another 45 here, another 45 there, and you're looking at your clock expiring because your lease is about to end, and you're trying to find a space. You got to move. All of that is tremendously stressful. You got kids, maybe you got to relocate schools. So they're disrupted, and they have stress and anxiety. So, working for the Navy earlier in the year and then last year, one of the things they were talking about as military members were separating or retiring is that your pets go through that stress too. It's not just you, it's not just your children or your spouse, but it is your kids and your pets too. So you have to be cognizant of that, and just think about all those things. And any thoughts on that? I know I went along.
No, that actually is kind of something that we talked about this morning here at the Housing Authority is, we hired a landlord liaison, Lori, who was on the show last week, and she's doing a great job, but she's not doing the job. We didn't know exactly what the job would entail. And long term, we really wanted to have, a nice landlord program set up, trainings, all of this stuff. So, but because we got these emergency vouchers, it quickly changed to she had to really get in there and help each one of those voucher holders and figure out what their particular challenges were. And she spent a significant amount of time on the phone with them, just counseling and helping them through. And so, as we thought about that today, we thought, we are voucher holders, whether they're in the emergency voucher program or just the regular voucher program, or people in general looking for housing. They almost need like another person to coach them through this. And so I know we've heard of housing authorities that have relocation teams, and we're seriously considering what maybe we do it with a KCR or another partner in agency, that we say, okay, we all have these clients, they are all looking for housing and in need of, help. And sometimes it's not even financial, it's just otherwise, how do you talk to a landlord? So should this be something that we all look at investing in? Maybe we hire one person, some other agencies hire someone, and they work together as a team to really help these people find and be successful in leasing up.
I got to give you a horn for that one. I got to give Lori a horn because I know that she's working directly with folks that I know, and they're just saying how awesome she is and patient and knowledgeable. So shout out to Lori. And I think folks may not get often that can be very paralyzing when you're up against the gun of needing to move. and there are no prospects open, right? And you know that you don't look good on paper, but you have to find housing, and how terribly stressful that is. And it's embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to lay yourself bare and say, hey, the things that I did or the things that are in my credit, that was in the past. That's not who I am. This is who I am now, and this is how I'm going forward. I need you to take a chance on me so that me and my family can have a place to stay. Uh, yeah, man, that is, I, I don't even have words for that, but I've seen it, right? I've seen the tears, I've seen the anxiety, I've seen the stress, I've seen the hopelessness in that. Um, and it's hard. And so, the Lori's of the world and the Jills of the world that are trying to make that change, I applaud you for that, and just continuing to advocate for the community on both sides, right? Not only just for the clients, but also for the landlords, and trying to provide education and resources to them and reassurances on how they can qualify to become to accept a voucher, what options they have to keep their space safe and not destroyed, and whatnot. And then also kind of cutting through the myths of we know how news travels, right? You could do 9 good things and that one bad thing is the one that sticks, right? So that one horrible tenant, everyone's gonna go tell it on the mountain, but the other 9 that never had a problem, no one ever talks about, right? Because they're not a problem.
Right.
So and it's like, hey, it's the best kept secret. If you told me that I was going to get a guaranteed return on investment of 80 to 90% every month on the first direct deposit, sign me up.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this earlier. Is it true that during the pandemic, when the moratorium took place, if you had a voucher holder or a Section 8, those payments never stopped and they were never delayed? Is that true?
That's true. They never stopped and they were never delayed. And if you asked for a rental increase and that rental increase did not result in the tenants portion going up, we were still approving those increases.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. As a business person, I'm looking at that like that sounds mighty good to me. So, I know if things kind of go bad, that I'm going to have that guaranteed revenue coming in, and that's not going to impact me negatively. So, and again, landlords can also get to know their tenants, right? I mean,
That's right.
see, there's some, you want to allow them to have their privacy or whatnot, but we're advocating for tenants to get to know their landlords. And I think you can have that symbiotic relationship. You're taking care of my space and I'm providing you a space, and we're working together so that we both can thrive, and take care of ourselves and our families. And so if we start looking at it in a lens of community and that standpoint, I think we can get a lot further. At least that's my hope.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's right. And I think really looking, and I know that there are landlords who have done this, that they really look at the Section 8 program as an investment for their money, where they're not buying the nicest new home on the block, but they might be buying something and doing some fixing up to get it past the standard and then renting it out over the long term, having a portfolio of Section 8 rental housing, at least during the pandemic, was not a bad place to be for those landlords.
Yeah, absolutely. See, and I wanted to point that out because no one really talks about that, right? It depends on, what side of the position you're on. And so it's good to look at the pros and cons on both sides, and then kind of express that. And that's a big deal for the conduit, is to provide the information that isn't typically presented out into the community, and then allow folks to come on and ask questions and make comments and learn. Rob Dent says, Joe's idea about relocation specialists is a good idea. That could be a huge help. He also said, all of this is good information, and it sounds like communication is a key for all of it. So I think I agree with both of those sentiments. Jill is nodding her head yes. So it's like, hey, it's a light week. We don't have a lot to talk about, and look, we had quite a bit to talk about. So I think it was quite informative. Again, I got to tell you, I appreciate you so much for being willing to come on every Monday and take some time out and share this information with the community, and answer questions, and really, just like I said, provide clarity and transparency of how things work, and in educating folks. I think this is life changing to me.
No, it's good. It's good for us too. We're happy to be out there and just promoting this program wherever we can. So we really appreciate that you're doing this as well, Marwan, because it's a huge resource to the community.
Well, then what I will say is we've had a pretty good Monday. I hope that you have too. We will be back next Monday, of course. And as soon as we hear anything on the moratorium bridge, we'll make sure that we get it out. I'm sure if Jill hears something in the middle of the week, she'll let me know and I'll get it out to everyone so that we're aware of what's going on. Again, both on the client and the landlord side. We're still working behind the scenes to have the legal folks come on to the conduit as Matt Garrett was talking about. So we're still working on that. And Matt is still kind of healing from his back surgery. So we hope that he has a speedy recovery and we'll all be back together having these conversations. Maybe next week we talk a little bit about other resources that might go alongside Bremerton Housing Authority, like KCR and maybe some others. I'm thinking of Northwest Hospitality with Anton Pressinger, who has a program for folks that do get housing to help them kind of furnished our houses with like vacuums and dishes and things like that. He's got a mobile clothing closet, so shout out to him. And just kind of put all of these things together. And that is the community that we want to see is the community that we build. And so this is what we're doing. We're building it. So I'm gonna give you the final word, Jill.
Well, no, I think that was a good final word. It's great to talk on Mondays and talk about housing, and as these ideas come up, it's kind of just fun to be able to share them with someone and say, well, here's what we're talking about at the Housing Authority. We might not have formed it completely yet, but what do you think? And it's good for us to get that feedback.
Good. Well, I appreciate it. So we won't keep you any longer. I appreciate you very much. We will see you next Monday. And again, come back at 5 p.m. for Bill Broughton running for Bremerton Mayor. All right. I'm Marwan Cameron. For Jill, this is The Conduit. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.